Yeah, I remember just going into a shop. I must have been about, must have been probably like 6 or even 7. I used to go to this shop with my mate and buy like a regular Foster. That was the only thing that they used to sell. They didn't even ask me for ID, anything. We were kids. I'll say, yeah, I'm buying some beer for my dad. Fuck, nah, that was bullshit. I used to basically buy it, and with my mate, just on our way up from our lunchtime into, infant school, we used to just neck down a beer and just walk into like a kid,
Hey, what's up, Vox and Hops heads? I'm Matt, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, brought to you by Sound Talent Media, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians to talk about their lives, music, and craft beer. I hope you guys have been having a great week. I most certainly have been. Last night, we had an excellent time at this month's live Thirsty Thursday virtual hang. If you were there, thank you so much for being there. It is always a pleasure to hang out with you. If you were not there, well, you should have. And if you did miss it, that's okay, because I'm going to be releasing the chat with Eliseo and Charles of Abysmal Dawn next Thursday, so you can catch up with everything that you missed. I love Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs. It is one of my favorite things which has come out of this pandemic. I truly appreciate my Thirsty Thursday gang. It is an awesome place, which you should be a part of if you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer, just as we do. Before we jump into today's episode, I'd just like to encourage you to subscribe to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, I'm asking you to rate it or write a review, because when you do that, more metalheads just like yourself will be able to discover the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You should also sign up to the Vox and Hops mailing list. You can do that on my website, VOX&HOPS.com. That is VOXANDHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive one email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast throughout the past week, including all the details to any episodes which I drop throughout that week. If I have been a guest on someone else's podcast, there will also be the links to future live interview Thirsty Thursday virtual hangs, as well as the updated links to the Brutal Awakenings playlist, which is available on Apple Music and Spotify, and is curated by my man Jerry Monk, the metal architect himself. Do yourself a favor, join the party, sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast's mailing list. Now, on today's episode, I am with Jaromir Gomez, the vocalist of Red Method. Get ready, people. This is Vox and Hops episode number 238.
I warn you, what you are about to hear is very disturbing indeed.
Hey, what's up, everyone? Today, I am super stoked to be with Jaromir Gomez of Red Method. How are you doing, Jaromir? Stoked to be with you. Let's start with a very simple yet complex question I like to start these off with. Recently, coping with this glorious year of 2020.
To be honest, it's been tricky, not going to lie to you. Especially when we were about to go on tour for a 3-week tour, and we released For the Sick under Red Method. And we were hit with the lockdown, the COVID-19 pandemic, just when we released the album. So we were actually driving up to Manchester when that happened. The promoter called me and said, you know what, it's not worth coming up. You know, things are getting cancelled left, right, and centre. It's way too risky. Well, that's it. And we went into lockdown, and since then, I think I cancelled must have been 43 gigs, something like that, including festivals, including all the kind of major festivals in the UK. So yeah, it was a pretty, a big hit really, which we're forced obviously to do. And since then, really, what I've been doing is just writing, and I've been getting most of the songs of the new album of Red Method, put it that way, out the way. But that's taken it a lot of time, and it's given me the time really to focus on that and really channel into the new songs and the new album really. So that's I see a positive from it, I guess. As a band, we've been active online. We've been getting we released a video, and it's called The Reworks, and it's basically kind of like looking at the debut album, rejiggling some of the songs, looking at more the electronic side of the band. And we did a video for that was released in Halloween. We've been trying to keep up. We've done 2 lockdown videos as well. at home. You know, we've done it ourselves. So we've kept, you know, we've kind of kept quite active as we could.
I think that's super, super, super important for bands to be doing that right now. You can't just disappear, because in this new world age of everything moving so quickly, if you're not doing it, someone else is going to capture their attention. So good for you guys for keeping that up and keeping your finger on your fans' pulses. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vox and Hops is all about hanging out with my metal friends, talking about their lives, music, and craft beer. What beer do you have on your side there, Jeremy, that we're going to share today?
So we've got here a Beavertown Bloody Orange IPA. There you go. I don't know if you can see that.
Very nice. I love it. Super metal-ass label. I love it. Love these metal-themed labels that are coming out. It's so gorgeous. Gorgeous artwork that's coming out of the craft beer world. And I obviously see a huge similarity between all of the metal merch going on. I have more of a tongue-in-cheek beer going on here.
Oh, nice.
It is the Jaromir Lager, who is obviously named after the Jaromir Jager, famous hockey player, me being from Canada. I love that. And this is a Czech Pilsner, a Světlý Ležák. Absolutely gorgeous brewery from here in Kahnawake Brewing Company. This is super stoked to be drinking this right now with you. I'm going to crack this open. Let's talk about beer a little bit. Tell me about your very, very first brew. Do you remember the first beer you ever drank?
Also, I think it was, I think I must have been in, what was it, in infant school. I remember just going into a shop. I must have been about, must have been probably like 6 or even 7. I used to go to this shop with my mate and buy like a regular Foster. That was the only thing that they used to sell. I'm from Gibraltar, you see. So in Gibraltar at the time, there wasn't a lot of things, you know. There wasn't like a big selection of beers, and we didn't have too obviously it's a small British colony, 3 miles by 3 miles. Back in the day, there wasn't too many things, but basically one off license would have to sell everything and serve everything for the people. So I used to walk in there. They didn't even ask me for ID, anything. And we were kids. I would say, I'm buying some beer for my dad. But I was bullshit. I used to basically buy it with my mates. On our way up from our lunchtime into, infant school, we used to just neck down a beer.
Oh, my God.
Into like a class, like a kid,
Your teachers must have loved you.
Oh, well, that was a nightmare, yeah.
Crazy.
Well, I think that was my first one. So I think it was Foster. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Foster. Must have been, pretty. I remember just drinking one with my mate and getting completely pissed when I was about 7 or 6.
Oh my God! Yeah, you're up there with a few. Lord Worm was at 4. I think that you are next on the people that have told me the earliest drinking story. This Jaromir Lager is absolutely amazing. If I close my eyes, I am in the Czech Republic drinking this. Mad shout out to Christoph, the brewer, who is Czech and made this. So cool, very, very crisp, absolutely cereal finish, just super, super cereally and malty, amazing, crisp, delicious. Let's dance into when. And as you mentioned, Foster's, the only time that I ever drink Foster's is when I'm on 70,000 tons of metal. Because we go through this period when you're paying and you're like, but that can's so big. So I'm going to get the best value for my money. And you end up drinking these monster Foster's on 70,000 tons of metal. And it's always a mistake. And not my favorite brew. How about when did you dance into becoming a craft beer enthusiast? Do you remember the first beer that would have caused you to become a craft beer nerd like myself?
I was always more just into normal beers, more than anything. But more craft. I think it must have been probably in my early 20s. I started just trying different craft beers, and I like drinking craft beers from time to time. And I like drinking it at home just to chill out and drink it. I must have started when I was 20, something like that, just trying different. I like different tastes and I like going for something very distinctive and trying everything I could possibly try with a different purpose, I guess. When I drink craft beer, punk IPA, and it's more to taste the actual quality of the actual craft rather than just getting pissed for the sake of getting pissed, you know. Which is I've got to do. You know, I mean, I either drink to get completely annihilated, or I enjoy my beer, and craft beers are one of them that I usually tend to buy here and there and enjoy it at home.
Very interesting. Growing up in Gibraltar, how long were you there? When did you leave there?
I left, I think, when I was 20.
Really?
So
okay.
I left, did my A-levels and stuff back in Gibraltar, high school. And I was already in bands. I was in metal band. It was probably one of the only metal bands there was in Gibraltar back in the day. My band was called at the time Better of Dead. And it was like an extreme, like a bit strappy young lad. I'm sure that you heard it. A bit strappy young lad kind of vibes. But there was nothing for us at the time. It was, you always were playing the same two shitholes, you know, like the same pub, like the same two pubs always. And or when the fair used to come once a year, oh, we can play in the fair. Let's play in the fair. All the musicians dying to play in the fair, and it's, you know, it was just boring. You know, it's just like the same kind of stuff every single year. There wasn't, to be fair, there wasn't a lot that could happen in a place like Gibraltar, and that was partly why I moved to London. So obviously, I did fine art, not finance. I'm shit at finance, but fine art. And I did a band, and I came and did a band. My first band was Ted Mall, and I came this was about 20 years ago when I moved to London. We started Ted Mall, toured with numerous amount of bands worldwide, and then after that, I did another band called Metastasis, and then it followed up to Red Method, where I am now. But yeah, I must have been, I was 20 when I left.
Wow.
With the reasons of doing music and following a career now.
Very interesting. Let's go backwards, though, and into your youth. Growing up, what would be the soundtrack of your youth? What music did your parents or guardians listen to when they're in control of the radio? What music was playing?
Yeah, to be honest, it was a lot of flamenco. Because,
really?
You know, my roots are kind of, you know, in Spanish music, really, put it that way. And I had an uncle that used to be a flamenco guitar player. He used to go on cruises, and he used to play the Spanish guitar. He came out in a few movies in Spain. I saw the flamenco playing. So I think the roots were there already of the Spanish kind of side, flamenco music and Spanish classical guitar. So there's a lot of that playing on. But also, I remember my dad used to put a lot of Europe, the Final Countdown, and that was the first thing. And then when he played it once, I remember, I must have been really young, 7 or something like that. And I heard it, and I was like, oh. And I remember going from like really childish music, like, you know, cartoon, kiddie music, and then hearing like flat Spanish flamenco music at home to the back. And then all of a sudden, I heard, you know, the Final Countdown with, you know, with the prestige kind of unique vocals, and obviously, you know, some kind of some kind of distorted guitars to some extent. And I was like, what the hell is this? It blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. Play it again, and played it until I learned the whole thing, the whole song. And I think from there I started to build up, you know, more interested in the world of more, like I said, rock music. I'm metal, but I very quickly moved to Slayer. Very quickly, and Venom, and the bands that were at the time, you know what I mean? So we're talking about 30 years ago. How
easy was it for you to get access to all these extreme bands being in Gibraltar?
There was only one way, really. There wasn't. We had Sky TV, and I used to see all my bands, the bands I liked, through Headbangers Ball.
Fuck yeah.
That was my, and Beavis and Butthead and stuff like that. And when I used to hear a band there, I was like, oh my God, I used to write it down on a piece of paper and then go to the only music shop there was in Gibraltar called VJ. And we could, obviously, all the music I wanted wasn't in the store because obviously it was quite dark and rare at the time. And there wasn't a big, I guess, market for it at the time, as big as it is, you know, these days. But, it was easy. They did put it in place, and they did do orders, and it took about, I remember, 2 weeks for it to get back to Gibraltar. And like that, I used to order every single album from Korn to Marilyn Manson to Slayer to everything, Pantera to the whole. I just ordered and until I was 20, and then I left to UK basically.
It's amazing.
But yeah, it wasn't that easy. It's not like, you know, in London when I moved here, where you walk into a shop and you go to the metal section. It's like, oh my God, this is heaven here. You got and you can see so many different bands, you know. And it was amazing when I got to London because it had everything that I was always looking for as a kid. But it wasn't easy at all. No, you had to basically put an order for them, and you know, sometimes they would come back to you and say after 2 weeks, sorry, but you know, that it's just finding it impossible to get the album you wanted. Sometimes I didn't even get it. So yeah,
that's you know, something that kids nowadays will never comprehend. The patience that we had to have back in the day to get an album, to appreciate that album, and I feel like we did appreciate it far more than now. I know for myself, and I've said on the podcast a few times now, since I've switched to using a digital platform to explore music, I listen to way more music, but I like less music, or I cherish less music.
Yeah.
Yes, it must have been also very difficult to actually see bands. Do bands tour Gibraltar? Is that something that happened?
No, not at all. They came. The closest was to Madrid. That's probably in Spain, and that was about 6-hour drive from Gibraltar. I mean, or Granada. Yeah, I mean, Granada was the closest. I think Granada. Yeah, I went to see Soulfly. That was one of my first kind of live experience. Yeah, Soulfly, Korn also came, but you had to travel, you know, to see them. And this was later on. It wasn't even when I started listening to music, you know, the type of music I used to listen to. This was later on, most probably when I was 20 already. You know, the bands used to come close to Sevilla or to Granada, but again, it's not Gibraltar. You know, Gibraltar, they didn't used to come, so it was a nightmare to see anything. You couldn't really, you know, I mean, you couldn't depend on saying, okay, I'm going to wait till the tour again. You could spend your whole life there waiting, and the band would never come. So, but you know, sometimes they did come close, and you could get like a little bus together with friends and organize it and go on a coach and go into Spain and try and see the touring band that there is. But still, it wasn't, you know, the options were quite minimum compared to London. You know, London,
the concert, 2-3 concerts a night, yeah,
easy. You know what I mean? So again, yeah, it was hard. It's probably one of the hardest countries, really. That's why I moved to it,
and that's why I'm asking so many questions about it, because I haven't spoken to anybody in a situation such as this. So I'm very interested by it, and the fact that you drove yourself and got out there. When did you start singing? You mentioned that you learned the Final Countdown because you listened to it so much. Were you always a singer? Were you someone that just liked to sing? Let's talk about singing a little bit.
I think. The first time I realized that maybe I could try to do vocals in a band. Most probably was again in a car. I must have been 14, 15, going out with your mates, drinking, getting pissed in the car. We shouldn't have, obviously, that we were proper devils back in the day. And just singing in the car, you know what I mean? And you know, my mate that was older than me at the time, he was a guitarist. He was like, "Oh man, you could try and do some vocals. You know, you've got quite a good lung in you." He was saying you could, you know, sustain a nice growl. I'm like, "Oh, okay." And that's how it started. Then I just went straight to a rehearsal and we did a cover. I remember we were covering Pantera, Domination. I think we did a cover of that. Then Downset. Do you remember a band called Downset?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Downset, Sangre de mis manos, which was an amazing Spanish track they had. Did Slayer as well, and Dayside. We were doing a cover of Dayside as well at the time. Once Upon a Cross. And that's it. It started from there, really, you know. And then it was... I started doing a lot of rap metal at the time. I was into my rap. Yeah, I liked Cypress Hill a lot and Snoop Doggy Dogg. And then I liked metal, so I was kind of looking at that crossover between the two genres. And I started with a lot of rap metal, and then I started with a lot of grunge, and then went to very heavy stuff, like extreme and very extreme vocals, you know, Dayside, Morbid Angel, that kind of strappy and lad. And and slowly, obviously, over the years, finding my own kind of unique kind of style, I guess. But definitely, it started, if I would say an age, must have been 14. It was probably 14 when I started trying to grout, experimenting with grout, put it that way.
How do you keep your voice healthy when you are on the road?
That's a good question. I don't even know. People say I'm quite a party animal when it comes to being on the road. So I think I've changed quite a bit, I think, from my previous bands to this one. So when I'm on the road now, I'm putting a party. I'm going to still, get on it here and there. But not like I used to for my other bands. I think it's probably his age, I'm 39 now and partying every single day while on tour and doing vocals. As you know, it's brutal. Every single day, hammer it down. I still do it, but I think drinking lots of water, main thing, warming up a little bit before the gig. I think now I've got more self-control, I guess, as an adult than what I used to. So I guess you've got to listen to your body. And, if you're on the third gig, fourth, fifth gig, and your body's starting to, if you're feeling you're sore, maybe around the throat area or the ribs, or, you're caning it too much, put it that way. By drinking and partying, you slow down and try and get some rest and sleep at least, and you keep hydrated as much as you can. Honey, Manuka honey as well is very good for the throat. Listen to your body, and when it's telling you stop for a bit, or with any other exterior stuff that you usually take when you're on tour.
It's the FOMO, though. It's you finish the gig, you're on that adrenaline high. All the other guys or all the other people on the tour are going out and doing something, and then you, the singer, you're like, well, I should rest, I should take care of myself. But then there's that fear of missing out, that little devil that comes and whispers over your head. What if they have a crazy night and then you're not there, and it's this tour story that they're going to talk about for years, and you're not going to be there. But I think the older we get, we're like, just shut up, I'm going to bed, leave me alone.
I mean, I got to say, I've had the best times of my life on tour. Like, I haven't missed a party ever. I've done it. I've been the last one standing. I always am. I think I've killed numerous amounts of bands and band members throughout my years of touring. My first band, Ted Mole, had a big reputation for just being completely crazy devils on tour. With actually this guy, that's Luca. He's in a different band called This Is Endless, this one, but I do vocals for. It's like old school death metal, Bayside, Morbid Angel stuff. Yeah, and we used to party quite a lot. We still do. Actually, I'm hangover. I'm having a party with him last night. I can't even drink at the moment. But yeah, we'll consider. I think I think you got to be a bit more considerate this time, obviously with age and like you said, you don't want to miss any party, but at the same time, you do think it more now, and you do kind of say, okay, is it worth it? The other thing is, you got to look at weight off. If you got a really important gig the next day, you're playing some massive festival, you don't want to be completely hanging out your ass.
Nope.
you want to give them hell, So yeah, it's important to, I guess, to look after yourself. Absolutely, prioritize 100%.
And the reason that we are on tour is to play the shows. So that should be priority number one at all times. Speaking about playing shows, you mentioned that you had over 40 of them canceled this year. When do you realistically think touring will come back to the way it was before the pandemic?
I don't think it's going to most probably come back as how we left it. I think even if we did when things come back, as you know now, there's a trial with this new vaccine and that's come out. But even then, I think you're still going to need a vaccine to get in a gig or a festival, and probably you're going to need to do a COVID test. That's what I'm hearing around here. So, you're going to have to think it more than twice, I guess, before going to a gig now, because you got to have the vaccine, and B, you're going to need to fuck around and look for a COVID test, do the bloody COVID test, get the results. And sometimes, life is so, there's so many things you're doing at the same time. Now you got to also consider doing, a COVID test each time you do a gig. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. It's a pain in the ass, you know what I mean? It's just like, obviously I'll do it. But I think when things come back, it'll take a while for things to pick up. Definitely.
Absolutely.
And if they ever go back to normality, I'm not sure. I don't know what restrictions is going to be. Obviously, you're going to need a 2-meter distance, where the mosh pit's going to go like it used to be. I mean, as you know, our music is all about the energy, the fucking having it, and it's part of the art, it's part of the feeling, the emotions, everything that creates that kind of live energy. And I think taking off that kind of, having 2-meter distance, it's like, I don't know, it's like using a mountain bike in a straight road, it's like, it's not compatible. I don't think it's compatible,
Those rich wives driving their Hummers around. To a shopping mall, as opposed to what Hummers were actually made for, to just destroy a forest.
yeah, exactly.
But it's true. Those are shows I don't want to play. I do not want to play a social distance show. I don't want to spend my time on stage saying, no, don't mosh, no, you can't do that because we'll stop the show. That's not what extreme music is about. We're there to incite energy and a friendly aggression. That's definitely what my point of view on this is, for sure.
100%. So, I think we need to. They say hopefully we can enjoy a summer off festivals. They're saying, but I guess let's see what summer festival we're going to have first, and how we're going to be able to enjoy it. I mean, I am concerned, to be honest, because time ticks off, and time doesn't wait. And obviously, as you've got releases and you've got a band, and you need to keep that momentum going, you know what I mean? And there's so much you can constantly continue to do online. You know what I mean? Plus it's a bit, I think, it's cool to do videos and lockdown videos and, do a playthrough and do this, but I don't know, there's so much you can do of it, you know what I mean? And once you've done all that, it's just repeating yourself again and doing the same online videos and the same, I think it needs to come back. Live music has to come back some form or way. I think, it's going to lose a lot of, people and hope, I guess.
Absolutely. So you guys dropped For the Sick early last year. What a fitting title, For the Sick, with everything going on. What I did love about the album is that there's a whole bunch of nu metal vibes going on in it. And I, as I've mentioned many times on the podcast, I am a nu metal child. I grew up, my first extreme bands were Manson and Korn, and just I ate up all of that. So I am loving this resurgence that's happening in the past few years of nu metal coming back in an appreciated form with bands such as yourself, Tetrarch, and Loathe, another UK band. I feel like there's a bunch of nu metal vibes going on in that. So to talk to me about this nu metal resurgence, what's your opinion on that?
I think it's great. I'm not going to lie to you. I think, to be totally honest, the reason why I love, you could say the label nu metal, why I love it is because, and I don't know, it's just a label really that people say nu metal, it's nu metal, but it was just an era of music that came out that was just heavy. It was just pure in your face. It was raw. It was, the notes they used to use, it was negative, you know what I mean? It was raw passion, negative to it. A lot of people don't see it like that. They say, it's nu metal. Oh no, I like extreme metal or death metal. I'm like, what gives a shit what you like? You know what I mean? It's like this Korn song sounds 10 times heavier than whatever, you know what I mean, thrash metal you're listening to. Sorry, it's heavier in general. It's fucking more brutal. You listen to it. And I think it's great. I think it does need to come back. I think if it did come back, it's going to take over easily, because the sounds, the grooves, everything's bigger. The whole fucking thing, it sounds big. It's like made to move masses. You know what I mean? It's like, and I think it's a good time for it to come back. I think it's a good time. I think there's been, a gap already, a big gap of about 20, 15 years. You know what I mean? And I think it's time to for it to take off. I think, like you said as well, there's a lot of bands now coming in, like Loath, like Tesseract, that already are, have these elements in here, in the new metal kind of, vibes from the old stuff, but more modernized these days, I guess. And there's a lot of bands highly influenced by it. Tons of them are coming out. I agree with it. I think it should come back. It should take off.
One last question for you, Jeremy. You mentioned that you're nursing a hangover right now, so this is just purely fitting with my wrap-up question. It probably doesn't happen to you very often, but it might sometimes, because you're that guy, you're the animal, the party machine. What is your hangover cure?
Depends. It depends. Usually it's a beer, maybe a Moretti, Italian beer, Moretti, one of the big ones.
Yeah.
That and loads of pizza, and actually loads of grapes. So for some reason, this makes me come back to life. Grapes, water, and beer the next day.
Amazing.
And pizza. Just a good pizza. Yeah, I think that's the way forward. Definitely.
Jeremy, thank you so much for taking the time talking to me about your life, metal, and craft beer. Everyone go check out the new Red Method track, Slaves of the New World Order, which just dropped in January. Check it out, people. Support Red Method. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Cheers, bud.
Respect, brother. Amazing speaking to you. Wicked.
Hey, thank you all so much for listening right to the end. You know that I love and appreciate that. Now, I've heard many people tell me that they started drinking at an early age. Now, Jeremy, as I mentioned, is up there in the top 2 people of people that started drinking at the youngest age. It was a different time. It was a different era. I hope that nowadays, in this modern times, we watch our kids and take good care of them and make sure that they don't start drinking until they are old enough to do so. Excellent chat with Jeremy. I'm happy we got the chance to connect. I'm looking forward to meeting up in person and sharing a brew with you and chatting some more, because you were an absolute riot. If you enjoyed this Vox and Hops episode, you should most definitely subscribe to it on the podcast platform of your choice. But more than that, you should take the time to rate it and write a review, because when you do that, more people just like yourself will be able to discover the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast. You should also sign up to the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast's mailing lists. You can do that on my website, voxandhops.com. That is VOXandHOPS.com. And when you do that, you shall receive 1 email a week containing all of the details of everything that has happened in the world of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast throughout the past week. Do yourself a favor, join the party, sign up to the Vox and Hops mailing list, because I don't want you missing a single thing. The Vox and Hops Metal Podcast is brought to you by Sound Talent Media. I will be back next week with 3 episodes, but until then, remember to enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. Cheers, Vox and Hops heads.